The sky above San Francisco was the color of a torn envelope. Rain pressed against the city in sheets, turning Market Street into a river of headlights and reflections. Amelia Jones hunched under her postal cap, clutching her bag tight as the wind tried to steal. Her route list from her hands. Her phone buzzed. A reminder from the daycare. Pick up Oliver by 6. She checked her watch. 5:32. Perfect, if she skipped her coffee break and jogged. Through the last 3 deliveries, she might make it. The thought of her little boy's face waiting at the window always gave her a second wind. By day, Amelia was a mail carrier, temporary assignment, non-career as the union phrased it. By night, she worked at a small coffee shop off Mission Street, her fingers always smelling of espresso and rain. Her life was a series of deadlines, bills due, daycare fees, the late rent notice folded inside the kitchen drawer. But she managed. Somehow, she always managed. The storm picked up as she turned onto Beale Street. Her scanner beeped low battery. Of course, she muttered. Her last stop was an old building near the waterfront, the kind that looked like it had seen the gold rush come and go. She dropped the last few envelopes into the worn brass slot, then noticed something odd in the bottom corner of the mail chute. Behind a loose grate was an envelope, yellowed with age, the edges crisp like it had been forgotten for years. She pulled it free. It had never been sent. The address was blurred but legible. Ms. Eleanor Reed, 2712 Grove Street, San Francisco, CA. Her heart paused. Grove Street. That was 2 blocks from where she'd grown up. The sender's name made her stop breathing for a second. Nathan Cole. The name didn't ring any bells at first. Then curiosity bit her. Cole Industries. The name that was on every construction crane across the bay. She flipped the letter over. The wax seal was intact, a faded gold C. It looked too personal to be business. She shouldn't open it. Federal offense, right? But something about it, the weight, the neat handwriting, the way the ink had bled at the edges, felt heavy with something, unfinished. And she'd always had a weakness for unfinished stories. That night, after Oliver was asleep, Amelia sat at the small kitchen table, rain drumming against the window. The letter sat in front of her, its paper catching the dim light. She told herself she'd just look at it, not open it. Just look. But her fingers moved anyway. The seal cracked softly, like a sigh that had waited too long. She unfolded the single sheet inside. The handwriting was elegant, confident, but beneath it, she could feel something breaking. December 17th, 2009, Eleanor. If you're reading this, it means I failed to say what I should have said 10 years ago. The company has taken everything from me, including the courage to face what I left behind. You deserved better than silence. You deserved truth. I think about her every winter. The little girl who loved postcards and the sound of the ocean. If she ever asks about me, tell her I wasn't brave enough to be her father. I see her face in every crowd. I wonder if she forgave me. Nathan, Amelia's breath caught. She read the paragraph again. Then again, the little girl who loved postcards. When she was 5, her mother used to write her name on the back of postcards from every city they never visited a game. She called dream traveling. Her mother's name was Eleanor Reed, and she'd never told Amelia who her father was. Her pulse thundered. The letter trembled in her hand. She whispered, "Oh my God." She grabbed her phone, scrolling through the screen as rain pressed against the glass. She typed, Nathan Cole, San Francisco, and there he was. CEO, philanthropist, billionaire, silver hair now, but the same eyes as the photo she had. Once found in her mother's drawer, the one Eleanor said was a stranger from another life. Amelia stared at the image on her screen until her reflection blurred with his. She didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the handwriting, the regret bleeding through each line. If she ever asks about me. She was 30 now, and she was done asking. Tomorrow, she decided, she'd delivered the letter. Personally, no stamps, no return address, just answers. The next morning, she dressed Oliver, dropped him at daycare, and took the Muni downtown. Coal Industries tower loomed above the skyline like glass carved from fog. The receptionist's smile froze the moment Amelia said, I'm here to see Mr. Nathan Cole. It's personal. Do you have an appointment? No, she said, holding up the envelope. But he wrote this. 15 years ago. That got her a raised eyebrow and a quiet phone call. 10 minutes later, 2 men in suits appeared. One of them said, Mr. Cole will see you now. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like ascending through another life. When the doors opened, the view hit her. The bay stretched wide, silver under morning fog, and behind a long glass desk stood the man from the photograph. Older, yes, but unmistakable. Nathan Cole turned. His voice was low, smooth, practiced. Miss Jones, she said. Amelia Jones. He gestured to the chair across from him. What can I do for you, Miss Jones? She set the letter on his desk. You wrote this, she said. To Eleanor Reed. Nathan's hand froze mid-ridge. He looked down at the envelope as if it were a ghost made of paper. The silence stretched long enough for the sound of the rain against the windows to fill it. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed. Softer. Where did you get this? It was stuck in an old mail chute on Beale Street. I deliver for the postal service. He lifted the letter, eyes scanning the handwriting. I never sent it, he murmured. I couldn't. Amelia swallowed. Why not? He looked up, meeting her gaze, and for the first time, she saw guilt there, raw and unguarded. Because, he said quietly, she asked me to disappear. Nathan Cole didn't move for a long moment. His hand still rested on the letter, as if it might disappear if he blinked. Outside the panoramic window, fog crawled low across the bay, swallowing the bridge. The room was silent, except for the muted hum of air conditioning and the soft tick of his wristwatch. Expensive, heavy, precise, like the man himself. Amelia sat opposite, her damp hair falling loose around her shoulders, her coat dripping onto the marble floor. She wasn't sure if she should speak, or breathe, or run. Finally, Nathan said, she asked me to disappear. The words landed between them like a confession. Amelia frowned. Disappear? Why would Eleanor ask you to do that? He exhaled, sitting back. Because loving me ruined everything for her once. The answer was too vague, too heavy to be real. He stared down at the paper again, tracing the faint ink with his thumb, eyes distant. She was the only person who ever told me no. That's what I admired about her. Amelia leaned forward, pulse quickening. You knew her before she had me. Yes, he paused, the corner of his mouth tightening. A long time before her throat tightened. So, then, But she couldn't say who's the little girl in your letter yet. Not without trembling. Nathan rose and walked to the window, looking out over the city. His reflection merged with the skyline. When I met Eleanor, I was 30. Ambitious, stupidly ambitious. I built coal industries out of nothing, and I thought that made me invincible. She was a journalist back then, sharp, idealistic. She came to do a story on me, and instead, she saw through everything. He turned slightly, the faintest trace of a smile ghosting his lips. She made me believe I could be more than a man with a balance sheet. Amelia's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. And then what happened? He laughed once, low, bitter. Then she found out what I'd done. The silence stretched. "What did you do?" she asked quietly. Nathan looked over his shoulder, eyes colder now. "I bought her paper, shut down her story. She called it betrayal. I called it business." Amelia stared at him, the puzzle assembling painfully in her head. "She left after that." He nodded. "She told me to disappear. Said she wanted a life I couldn't buy or build, and the letter," he held it up, "was my apology. 15 years too late." She looked at him, at the grey threaded through his hair, at the lines carved deep around his mouth. For a second, he didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like a man who'd never stopped losing. Amelia's voice softened. "Did you ever see her again?" "No." He looked down, then back at her. Until now, her pulse stuttered. "What?" Nathan studied her face, really seeing her for the first time. The eyes hazel flecked with green, familiar. The way her jaw tightened when she was nervous. He remembered Eleanor standing in a rain-soaked doorway, saying, "You'll never understand what it costs me to walk away." Something in him twisted. "How old are you, Miss Jones?" 30, she said cautiously. He nodded slowly, almost to himself. She left 30 years ago. The realization hit her like a tide. Her breath caught. "You think I'm—" He didn't answer, just looked at her, quiet and unreadable, like a man who'd opened a door to find his past standing there. "I don't know what I think," he said finally. "But I'd like to." Amelia stood, unsteady. This was a mistake. "Wait," he said, but she was already backing toward the door. She turned, voice shaking. "You had 15 years to deliver that letter. You didn't. Now you want to deliver regret, like it's mail I'm supposed to sign for." He flinched. Amelia, she didn't let him finish. She left by the time she reached the lobby. Her heart was a drum in her chest. The glass doors hissed open, letting in the sting of cold air. The rain had turned the streets silver again. She clutched her bag tight and walked fast, almost running. It wasn't until she was halfway down the block that she realized she'd left the letter behind. Nathan stood alone in his office, holding the envelope she'd forgotten. Her fingerprint smudged faintly on the paper beside his own. He unfolded the letter again. The ink had faded, but the words still cut. "Tell her I wasn't brave enough to be her father." He stared at the line, then at the doorway she had just walked through. His reflection in the glass window shifted. Not older, not younger, just hollow, he whispered. "Maybe it's too late for brave." That night, Amelia tucked Oliver into bed. The city lights blinked faintly through the curtains. He held his toy truck close, eyelids drooping. "Mummy," he mumbled sleepily, "are you sad?" She smiled, smoothing his hair. "No, baby, just tired." But when she turned off the light, the tears came quietly. Not because of the letter, Not because of the man in the tower, because deep down she wasn't sure if she wanted the truth or if she already knew it. The next morning, she found a message slipped under her apartment door, a white envelope with her name written in elegant handwriting she recognized instantly. Inside, a single card. If you're willing to talk, come to the pier at dawn. I owe you more than a letter. Amelia looked at the clock. 4:47 a.m. The sky outside was still dark. She put on her coat. The bay was wrapped in fog when Amelia reached the pier. The air smelled of salt and diesel, and gulls cried somewhere beyond sight. The wooden boards creaked under her boots, wet from last night's rain. She hadn't told anyone where she was going, not even Mrs. Lee next door, who usually watched Oliver when she left early. She just knew she had to be here. In her pocket, she gripped the envelope he'd sent, the edges now softened from her fingers. Nathan Cole owed her answers, and she was done being afraid to ask for them. He was already there, standing near the end of the pier. Coat collar turned up against the wind, hands in pockets. The sea mist blurred his figure. For a moment he looked like someone half in the present, half in a memory. When he saw her, he didn't move right away, just watched her walk toward him, boots echoing on damp wood. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "I almost didn't." Her voice was sharper than she intended. "I would have understood." "No," she said, stopping a few feet from him. "I don't think you would have." The tide slapped against the pylons below. He nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon. "You're right." Amelia crossed her arms. "You said you owed me more than a letter." "I do." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather folder. Old, creased, the kind that looked like it had been opened and closed 1,000 times. Inside were photographs, yellowed prints of a woman laughing, standing near a beach. Her mother. Amelia's breath caught. "Where did you get those?" "I took them," he said simply. "Eleanor never let me keep many, but these I couldn't throw away." Amelia touched the corner of one photo, her mother barefoot, holding a shell to her ear, wind in her hair. She looked happy in a way Amelia barely remembered. She was 24 there, Nathan said softly. That was Point Reyes, 1995. She said the ocean made her feel small enough to be forgiven. For what? Amelia asked. He hesitated. For loving me? The words hung between them. Amelia looked at him, really looked. The man in front of her wasn't the confident executive she'd seen in pictures. There was weariness in his posture, something fragile in the way his voice caught. "You make it sound like love was a crime." He smiled faintly. "In my world it was, because of the company, because of what I did for it," he said, "because I built an empire on secrets, and she was the one person who wanted them in the open." "She was a journalist," Amelia said slowly. "Yes," he replied, "and she almost destroyed me." The fog thickened, muffling the city behind them. Amelia's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Nathan looked down at the water, his reflection rippling apart. She found proof that coal industries had falsified safety reports on our construction sites. Structural failures that caused a bridge collapse. 12 people died. I buried it, paid off the papers. She was the one reporter who wouldn't take the money. "So she was going to expose you," Amelia said, half statement, half question. "She did," he said quietly. "And I shut her down. Bought her editor, pulled her press credentials, and sent lawyers after her until she couldn't work again." Amelia's chest tightened. And you still thought she'd forgive you. He looked at her, eyes tired, hollow. I didn't. That's why I wrote the letter. Then why? She stopped herself. Why now? Why reach out after all these years? Because, he said slowly, I saw your mother's obituary last month. The words hit her like cold water. You knew. He nodded once. I went to the funeral. From a distance. You were there. You held a little boy's hand. She blinked, realizing her throat had gone dry. You followed me. No, he said softly. I recognized you. Amelia took a step back. That doesn't make sense, doesn't it? He said, you have her eyes. Her voice when you're angry. And your son. He has your smile. The pier tilted under her feet. The gulls screamed overhead. She couldn't breathe. You don't get to talk about my son. I'm not. Don't, she said, voice trembling. Don't make this something it isn't. Nathan's face folded inward, grief slipping through his composure. I'm trying to tell you the truth. She shook her head. No, you're trying to rewrite it. They stood in silence for a long time. The fog began to lift, the faint outline of the bridge emerging like a ghost returning to flesh. Amelia finally asked, quietly, did you ever try to find her? My mother. Every year, he said. Every December. I sent letters to addresses that no longer existed. I hired people. But she never wanted to be found. She told me she didn't have family, Amelia whispered. That we were better off alone. Nathan's jaw tightened. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't someone a child should know. Her voice broke. Maybe that wasn't your decision to make. Nathan closed the folder and handed it to her. These belong to you. She didn't take it. Why now? She asked again. Why tell me this? Because I'm running out of time to tell the truth, he said simply. And because there's one more thing you deserve to know. She hesitated. What thing? He looked at her, eyes dark with something deeper than guilt. Your mother didn't just leave me, Amelia. She left because she was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? The people who made sure that bridge collapsed were never caught, he said. And someone wanted her gone before she talked again. Amelia felt the world tilt. You're saying, her voice faltered. You're saying her death wasn't an accident. I don't know yet, Nathan said quietly. But I intend to find out. She stared at him, the man who might have destroyed her mother's life, now offering to avenge it. The fog around them thinned. The first sunlight breaking through. The water glowed gold. Amelia finally reached for the folder. If you're lying, I'll know. I wouldn't dare, he said as she turned to leave. Nathan called out softly, Amelia. She stopped. If she were here, he said, she'd tell you to keep walking. But I'm asking you, just once, to look back. Amelia didn't turn, but her voice carried through the morning air. You already disappeared once, Mr. Cole. Don't make me watch you do it again. Then she walked away. The letter folder pressed to her chest, and the sun rose behind her, pale and uncertain. That night, the city pulsed quietly beneath her window. Amelia sat at the kitchen table, the old leather folder lying open before her like a confession. The photographs spread out across the wood, her mother laughing, the ocean. A man she now knew was Nathan, smiling in a way he hadn't smiled in decades. It was strange seeing him young, less armor, more light. And between the photographs, folded so neatly it almost went unnoticed, was a document half tucked under a picture. Case file number 47. Coal Industries Structural Review. 2009. Her breath caught. She unfolded it carefully. The paper had been photocopied, faded at the edges, but the text was clear enough to make her stomach turn. Unauthorized modification of load-bearing joints. Ignored warnings from project engineer. Filed under confidential audit. Suppressed by order of executive board. At the bottom, a signature she didn't recognize. Eleanor read, investigative reporter. The date, January 4th, 2010. 3 weeks after the bridge collapse. A month before her mother left San Francisco, Amelia pressed a hand against her mouth. Her mother had never mentioned this. Not once. She flipped the page. On the back was a scrawled note, shaky handwriting, written in pencil. If something happens, find Nathan Cole. He knows where the rest is. Her eyes stung. You left me with ghosts, she whispered. The apartment creaked under the wind. Oliver stirred in the next room, mumbling in his sleep. Amelia gathered the papers, sliding them back into the folder. She didn't know what scared her more, the idea that her mother had been killed for this, or that Nathan had known all along. The next morning, she called in sick at the post office instead. She went to the public records department, her messenger bag heavy with the folder. She waited in line, chewing her thumbnail, until a clerk with wire-rimmed glasses finally waved her forward. I need to see any documents related to coal industries. Bridge Project, 2009 to 2010, she said. The clerk typed slowly, glanced up. Those files are sealed under corporate immunity. Even the safety reports. Especially those, he said dryly. You'd need a court order or someone on the inside. Amelia hesitated. Someone on the inside. By the time she reached Coal Tower again, the sky had turned the color of gunmetal. She didn't have an appointment this time either. She didn't care. The receptionist blinked when she stormed in. Ms. Jones, I need to see Mr. Cole now. One look at her face, and the woman didn't argue. 5 minutes later, Amelia stood outside Nathan's office. The door opened before she could knock. He was on the phone, voice clipped. I said lock down every site record from '09. No leaks, no press contact. He hung up, turned, and froze when he saw her. Amelia, he said slowly, what are you doing here? She dropped the folder onto his desk. You tell me. He opened it. His face paled as he saw the document. Where did you find this? Inside the photos you gave me. I didn't put that there. Then who did? She snapped. Because my mother's handwriting is on the back. He scanned the note. His jaw tightened. She told you to find me. Yes, and now I need you to tell me what the hell this is. He looked up at her, the weight in his eyes suddenly different. It's the reason your mother ran, and the reason I let her. For a moment, neither spoke. Eleanor found something she wasn't supposed to, he said, finally. Case file 47 was part of an internal investigation. A bridge we built failed inspection before it opened, but someone falsified the reports to meet deadlines. I buried it, I admit that, but I wasn't the one who signed off on the changes. Then who was? Nathan hesitated. The board. Specifically, my vice president. Thomas Hale. Amelia frowned. And my mother was going to expose him. Yes, but before she could publish, her car was run off the road. Amelia's stomach turned. You think Hale? I know he had motive, Nathan said quietly. And the resources. Amelia took a step closer. So why didn't you go to the police? Because I had no proof left, he said. Everything she found disappeared after the crash. Except this. He looked down at the folder. Except this. She crossed her arms. So what happens now? Nathan leaned back, eyes dark. Now we find the rest. He gave a faint, humorless smile. Your mother was smart. She wouldn't hide one copy without making another. Amelia swallowed. You think she left it somewhere? I think she left it for you. Later that day, back in her apartment, Amelia spread the photographs across the table again. Her mother on the beach. Her mother in front of her house. A note tucked behind one of the prints. For Amelia, when you're ready. She flipped the picture over. On the back, a faint pencil drawing. A lighthouse, tiny but precise. And coordinates. Her pulse quickened. She whispered, "What did you do, Mom?" Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Hello. A low voice. Ms. Jones. Stop digging into coal industries. Who is this? Some things were buried for a reason, the voice said. If you keep looking, you'll end up like your mother. The line went dead. Amelia's knees went weak. She sank into the chair, clutching the phone. Outside. Thunder rolled over the bay. For the first time. She believed Nathan Cole might be telling the truth, not because he was innocent, but because someone still wanted that story buried. She looked at the photograph again. The lighthouse drawn on the back. There was a place to go, and maybe, just maybe, a mother's voice still waiting there in the fog. The road to Mendocino wound through miles of fog and redwood. Amelia drove in silence, one hand tight on the steering wheel, the other resting protectively on the leather folder in the passenger seat. Nathan sat beside her, a quiet presence in a dark coat, eyes fixed on the road ahead. They hadn't spoken much since the call. There wasn't much to say. Somewhere behind them, San Francisco and its towers had disappeared into rain. Ahead was a coastline, so empty it felt like memory itself had thinned out. Are you sure this is the place? She asked finally. He checked the map again, an old printed one, creased and annotated in pencil. That's what the coordinates say. A lighthouse near Navarro Point. It hasn't been operational in 20 years. She drew it on the back of a photograph. Amelia murmured. She must have meant for me to find it. Nathan looked at her. You sound like her. That's not a compliment, is it? He smiled faintly. It's both. By the time they reached the turnoff, the fog had thickened into a white wall. The car crawled down a narrow road lined with cypress trees until the shape of the lighthouse appeared, a tower of weathered stone. Its top half shrouded in mist. Below it stood a small cottage with peeling paint and boarded windows. Amelia cut the engine. This was in her photo. Nathan stepped out first, the sea wind catching his coat. He looked around, scanning the overgrown path and the rusted gate. No one's lived here in years. Amelia joined him, pulling her jacket tighter. Then who's been paying the property tax? He raised a brow. You checked. I'm a mail carrier, she said. We noticed names. The key was still under the third floorboard of the porch, the same place her mother used to hide spare ones when Amelia was a kid. It turned easily in the lock. The door creaked open, releasing a breath of cold air and dust inside. The cottage was almost empty. A few pieces of furniture under sheets, a smell of old wood and salt. On the mantel, a photograph still stood, her mother holding a little girl by the ocean. Amelia's heart clenched. She touched the frame, leaving a clean fingerprint on the dusty glass. Nathan scanned the room like a man cataloguing ghosts. She really lived here. For almost 2 years, Amelia said softly. After she left the city, what was she doing? Hiding, I guess. They found the ledger in the cellar. Nathan discovered the trapdoor, first a seam in the floorboards, under an old rug. It led down to a small stone basement, cold and dark. A single bulb flickered to life when he pulled the chain. In the center of the room stood a metal filing cabinet with a faded sticker. Property of coal industries. Amelia's stomach twisted. You have got to be kidding me. Nathan stepped closer. She took this from my office. Then she wasn't hiding, Amelia said quietly. She was keeping something safe. The cabinet's top drawer was locked, but the second slid open easily. Inside were files wrapped in plastic, their labels smeared from age. Nathan pulled one out, brushed off the dust, and froze. Case 47, he murmured. Amelia's pulse quickened. It's all here. Maybe. He flipped through pages. Inspection reports, emails, blueprints. These are originals. Then this proves she was telling the truth. He nodded. It also proves someone wanted her silenced. She glanced around the cellar, the bare concrete, the old shelves, the faint sound of waves crashing beyond the cliff. She risked everything for this. Nathan's voice was low. She always did. Amelia turned to him. You loved her, he met her eyes. I still do. Something in the way he said it made her look away. You're talking about a ghost. He smiled sadly. Aren't we all? They worked in silence for hours, scanning documents, photographing each page with Amelia's phone. Outside, the fog thinned, and faint sunlight spilled through the cracks in the floorboards above. When Amelia opened the bottom drawer, she found something strange, a notebook wrapped in oilcloth, small enough to fit in her hand. The pages inside were filled with her mother's handwriting, neat, deliberate, underlined names and dates. At the top of the first page, for Amelia, when the truth finds you, don't let it break you. Her throat tightened. She knew I'd come. Nathan looked up from the files. What is it? She handed him the notebook. A ledger of people, payments, bribes. He skimmed it, expression darkening. These names, half of them still sit on my board. Suddenly, a faint sound broke the quiet tires crunching on gravel outside. Amelia froze. Did you hear that? Nathan nodded, eyes narrowing. He moved toward the stairs, motioning for her to stay back. Through the dirty window, 2 black SUVs appeared near the gate. Men stepped out tall, wearing dark coats, moving with a precision that didn't belong to tourists. Amelia's pulse spiked. Who are they? Nathan's jaw clenched. People who don't knock. He reached for the cabinet, yanked the top drawer, still locked. Grab the notebook, he said. Go out the back. What about you? I'll buy you time. She wanted to argue, but the sound of footsteps on the porch cut her off. Nathan pulled her toward the rear door. Take your car. Go to the old highway. Don't stop. What about you? She whispered again. He looked at her, eyes fierce, the CEO's mask slipping into something raw. You can't die for this. Your mother already did. Before she could reply, the front door splintered. Voices shouted. Nathan pushed her through the back entrance. Run. Amelia hesitated only long enough to grab the notebook and the folder of files. Then she ran out into the fog, across the field. The roar of the sea swallowing the sound of breaking glass behind her, when she finally reached the car. She turned once. The lighthouse stood against the grey sky, its beam long dead. But a faint flicker of light shimmered in one of the upper windows. Then the sound of a gunshot tore through the air. Amelia gasped. Nathan. She started the engine and drove, the tires slipping on wet gravel, the fog closing behind her like a curtain. Her mother's voice echoed in her head, a line from the letter she never wrote. Tell her I wasn't brave enough to be her father, Amelia whispered. Then maybe I'll have to be brave enough for both of us. When the police came, the fog had already begun to lift. Amelia stood behind the yellow tape, her coat soaked through, hair stuck to her cheeks, clutching the leather folder to her chest like a lifeline. Detective Ramirez, tall, grey-bearded, with a calm that could have been mistaken for indifference, flipped through his notebook. You're saying you found the house like this? She nodded numbly. Yes. When I got back, the door was open. The furniture overturned, blood on the floor. He glanced toward the house. And the man who was with you? I don't know where he is. Do you know his name? Her throat tightened. Nathan Cole. The detective's pen froze mid-air. As in the Nathan Cole. Yes, he closed the notebook. Then we've got ourselves a problem. They searched the property for hours. Deputies combing the cliffs, dogs sniffing through the brush. Nothing, no body. No tire tracks beyond hers. No sign of forced entry, though the front door had been shattered inward. It was as if Nathan had vanished into the fog itself. Ramirez approached her near sunset, hands in his jacket pockets. You're sure you didn't see anyone else? I heard voices, she said quietly. 2 men, maybe 3. But it was dark. He studied her a moment. You said there was gunfire. 1 shot, no casings found. Amelia looked away. That doesn't mean no one fired, he sighed. Miss Jones, you understand what this looks like. She did. It looked like she was lying by the time they let her go. The sun had disappeared behind the grey line of the ocean. She drove aimlessly for a while, heart pounding, replaying the sound, the crash of the door, the shot. Nathan's voice telling her to run. Every instinct screamed to go home, hold Oliver. Pretend the last 24 hours hadn't happened. But every time she thought of her mother's handwriting for Amelia, when the truth finds you, don't let it break you. She kept driving. Truth didn't wait for safe timing. She stopped at a small motel on Highway 1, the kind with flickering neon and salt-stained walls. Inside her room, she spread the contents of the notebook across the bed. Names, dates, payments, all connected by a single header. West Marana Trust Coastal Accounts, the same bank her mother had opened a savings account under when Amelia was a child. But next to the account number was something else. Vault IDL 47. Amelia traced the letters. Case 47, she whispered. It couldn't be coincidence. The next morning, she found the branch listed in the ledger, a stone building in downtown Mendocino. Quiet except for the hum of the sea breeze. She walked up to the teller window, clutching her bag. Hi, I'm here about a safety deposit box. IDL for 7. The teller frowned. May I see your identification? Amelia slid her license across the counter. The woman typed something, eyes narrowing at the screen. I'm sorry, ma'am. That account was closed years ago. When the woman hesitated, the file says, March 2010, closed by next of kin. My mother died in 2023, Amelia said. Who closed it? The teller's tone faltered. "I'm not authorized to." Amelia leaned closer. "Please. This is important." The woman looked around, then whispered. The signature was Nathan Cole's. Amelia stepped outside, pulse roaring in her ears. Nathan. Again, how many layers of secrets could one man carry? She sat in her car, staring at the waves breaking against the pier below, trying to make sense of it. He'd known about the vault. He'd closed it. But why hadn't he told her? Unless he never meant for her to find it. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text message this time. "You shouldn't have gone back to the house. Stop before you end up like him." Her fingers trembled. She typed back, "Who are you? What did you do to Nathan?" No reply. Just the grey check marks on the screen. Then, a few seconds later, another message arrived, an image attachment. It was grainy, taken at night, the lighthouse, its upper window glowing faintly. In the light, a silhouette stood tall, still. Nathan. She dropped the phone, chest tightening. He was alive, but why hadn't he called? Why send that kind of message? Amelia started the engine, her breath fogging the windshield. She drove back toward the cliffs, the same narrow road winding between the trees. The fog was back, heavier this time, pressing close against the car like smoke. When she reached the lighthouse gate, it was chained shut. The light above flickered weakly, as if struggling to exist. "Nathan." She called out into the wind. No answer. Just the crash of the sea against the rocks below. She climbed over the fence and walked toward the cottage. Inside, the place was as she'd left it, papers scattered. The metallic smell of old blood still, clinging to the air. But the cellar door was open. She hesitated at the top of the stairs. "Nathan." Something creaked below. She took one cautious step down, then another. The bulb still hung there, flickering. On the floor lay a fresh envelope, resting atop the empty filing cabinet, her name written across it. She picked it up, hands shaking. Inside, a single page, typed, unsigned. "You can't trust anyone in coal industries, not even me. If you're reading this, it means they found me first. Keep the ledger safe. There's another copy in the place where it all began, the bridge. Don't come back here." Her vision blurred with tears. "Damn you, Nathan," she whispered. Then she heard it, faint footsteps above, deliberate, circling the floorboards. Someone else was in the house. Amelia stuffed the letter into her pocket and turned off the cellar light. Darkness swallowed her. She pressed herself against the wall, holding her breath as the footsteps stopped directly above her. For a long minute there was silence. Then the slow creak of the cellar door closing. She waited until she heard the latch click, then counted to 10 before moving. When she climbed back up, the house was empty again. Only the front door was open, swinging slightly in the wind, outside. A black SUV was parked by the gate, engine idling, headlights off. She didn't wait to see who was inside. By the time she reached the highway, the fog had swallowed the cliffs behind her. Her phone buzzed again, one new message. "No sender ID. You can't run from a story once it starts." "Amelia." The words froze. Her blood, it was her mother's voice, or rather her mother's phrasing. A line Eleanor used to say when Amelia was a girl. "Stories chase you until you finish them." She looked at the screen again. The message had vanished. Only one word remained, faintly visible in the notification bar: bridge. The bridge looked nothing like it did in the photos. 15 years had turned the ruins into something ghostly, half steel, half silence. The west span had been rebuilt long ago, modern, efficient, forgetful. But the old foundations still jutted out from the water like bones too stubborn to sink. Amelia stood by the guardrail, wind cutting across her face, the bay below, grey and endless, in her pocket. The letter from Nathan felt heavier than anything she'd carried before. She hadn't told anyone where she was going. Not the police. Not Mrs. Lee. Not even Oliver. Some truths, she thought, couldn't survive daylight. She crossed through the old maintenance gate, following a narrow path that led down under the new bridge. Her boots scraped against wet gravel. The air smelled of rust and tide. Somewhere above, traffic hummed, a constant reminder that life had moved on even when people hadn't. At the base of one of the concrete pillars, she found what she was looking for, a small brass plate, weathered but legible. Coal Industries, 2009. Her mother's handwriting had mentioned the place where it all began. Amelia knelt, tracing the letters with her glove. "Okay, Mum," she whispered. "I'm here. Now what?" She searched along the foundation wall, brushing away moss and dirt. The tide lapped gently against the rocks. Then her hand struck something metallic, a faint outline of a latch, barely visible beneath a layer of concrete dust. A maintenance box. She pried it open with the edge of a wrench from her trunk toolkit. Inside, wrapped in a waterproof pouch, was a flash drive. No markings, no label, just a red light blinking faintly when she plugged it into her phone. Her heart raced, the screen filled with old files, inspection logs, financial ledgers, encrypted emails, and one video file dated Dec. 2009, the day before the bridge collapsed. She tapped play. The video was grainy, time-stamped 2:14 a.m. It showed a section of the bridge under construction. Workers in reflective vests, trucks idling. Then a sudden bright flash, followed by a roar of static dot. The camera jolted, the image spinning. In the last frame, a figure ran toward the blast. A man in a white hard hat, shouting orders. Then the video cut out. Amelia replayed it twice, zooming in on the final frame. The man's face was blurred, but she could see his badge glinting in the light. Hale, Nathan's vice president. The man her mother had accused. The man still sitting on the Coal Industries. Bored, the realization hit her like cold water. Her mother hadn't just been chasing corruption. She'd found it, and Nathan. Nathan had known. She stared at the bridge, her reflection trembling on the surface of the bay. "You kept this from me," she whispered. "You knew what happened." Then her phone buzzed. No number again. Leave the past where it fell. You're not ready to drown with it. Her pulse spiked. She spun around. No one. Just the wind through the steel beams. A whistle-like breath between teeth. She shoved the flash drive into her jacket and hurried back up the embankment. But when she reached the road, a black sedan was parked by her car. 2 men stood beside it, dressed in dark suits that didn't belong on a weekday afternoon near construction ruins. One of them spoke into a radio. Targets on sight. Amelia ducked behind the railing, heart hammering. She waited until they turned toward the bridge, then sprinted for the service stairs leading up to the pedestrian walkway. Her breath came out in clouds as she climbed, fingers numb from cold at the top. She stopped to catch her breath and froze. Someone was standing halfway across the walkway, leaning against the railing, staring down at the water. The silhouette was familiar, tall, shoulders broad, coat whipping in the wind. "Nathan," she called. He turned. His face was pale, drawn. A bruise shadowed his jaw. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Amelia," he said, voice hoarse. "You shouldn't have come." "You're alive," she said, half breathless, half furious. "They said I know," he interrupted softly. "I heard what they told you. You sent me that letter." "I had to," he said. "They're watching everything. Hale's people. They think I'm dead. That's the only reason I can move." She stepped closer. "You lied to me again." "Not lied," he said. "Protected you. Don't you dare call this protection." He sighed, closing his eyes. "You sound just like her. Maybe that's why you can't tell the truth." He met her gaze, something breaking quietly behind his composure. "I tried to stop it, Amelia. The night the bridge went down. I was there. I saw Hall sign the override. I thought I could fix it. But 12 people died, I know." His voice cracked. "And your mother spent the rest of her life trying to make me pay for it." Wind whipped between them, carrying the smell of salt and rust. Below, the water churned, grey and endless. Amelia pulled the flash drive from her pocket. "She didn't want you to pay. She wanted you to tell the truth." Nathan looked at it, recognition flickering in his eyes. "Where did you, under the bridge? Where you hid it?" "I didn't hide it." "Then who did?" He hesitated. "Eleanor." Her heart stopped. "What?" "She found out I was going to bury the report. She took the copy from my office and hid it before the collapse. She thought I'd come clean if it cost me everything." Amelia's voice broke. "And did you?" He looked away. Not soon enough. For a long moment, neither spoke. The world was just wind and waves. Finally, Nathan said, "You can't take that to the police yet. If Hale finds out you have it, he'll what?" "Kill me," she snapped. "Like he killed her." He flinched. She stepped closer, eyes blazing. "You think staying quiet redeems you? You think calling it protection makes it noble? You're just like him. You hide things until someone dies for them." He didn't answer. She shoved the drive into her pocket and turned to go. Behind her, his voice was low, breaking. "Amelia, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just need you to survive long enough to finish what she started." She stopped, but didn't look back. "You don't get to use her as redemption." He exhaled slowly. "Then don't do it for me. Do it for Oliver." Her breath caught. "How do you know his name?" Nathan's silence was answer enough. She turned sharply. "You son of a..." But before she could finish, a gunshot cracked through the air. The railing beside her exploded in splinters. Nathan shouted, lunging forward, pulling her down. Another shot rang out, echoing off the steel. Amelia pressed against the ground, heart pounding. "They found us, I know," he said through gritted teeth. "Run." They scrambled toward the maintenance stairwell as bullets whined through the fog. Nathan fired back. She didn't even see where the gun came from. Only the recoil in his hand, the grim focus on his face. By the time they reached the bottom, the sedan tires screeched somewhere above. Nathan grabbed her arm. "There's a safe house in the city. We can't go to the police." "Not yet." Amelia yanked free. "Why should I trust you now?" He looked at her, breathless, desperate. Because they're not coming for me anymore. They're coming for you. The city felt different when you were running from it. From the passenger seat, Amelia watched San Francisco blur past, lights smeared into streaks by rain and motion. Nathan drove in silence, his jaw set, one hand steady on the wheel, the other occasionally brushing the pistol. Beside him, on the seat, she hated that she noticed how natural it looked there. They pulled off Market Street and into an alley behind an old brick building. A faded sign above the rusted door read Mission Antique Restoration. Nathan killed the engine. We'll be safe here for a while. Whose place is this? Amelia asked, clutching the flash drive. He didn't answer. He just stepped out, checked the street, and waved for her to follow. Inside, the space smelled of varnish and dust. Rows of broken furniture and old mirrors lined the walls. A single bulb hung from the ceiling. Flickering faintly, Amelia's reflection fractured across a dozen surfaces, young, scared, determined. Nathan locked the door, then crossed to a metal desk in the corner. He slid open a drawer, revealing a battered laptop. It's not connected to any network, he said. We can work offline. She eyed him. You've done this before. He gave a humorless smile. I've had practice cleaning up after other people's messes, or your own. He didn't reply. Amelia sat down, plugging the flash drive into the laptop. The folder structure appeared, the same one she'd seen on her phone, only this time, the video files were joined by a single encrypted document labeled E47_main file. She doubled. A password prompt blinked on screen. Her pulse quickened. Eliano 47, she whispered, typing it in. The file opened. It wasn't a report. It was a diary, a sequence of audio logs, timestamps ranging from 2008 to 2010. Her mother's voice filled the small room, soft but steady, wrapped in the kind of sadness that felt practiced. If you're hearing this, it means I failed to stop them. Nathan won't talk. Hales signed off the final phase. They think no one will notice a few test anomalies on load day. But I saw the data, the material's unstable. Someone will die if they go through with it. Amelia's hand trembled. She paused the file. She knew. She warned you. Nathan's eyes stayed fixed on the screen. I thought she was exaggerating. You thought she was emotional. He flinched at her tone. I thought she was my conscience. She hit play again. If anything happens to me, the proof is in the bridge itself. They're testing blast sensors in the concrete. I can't go to the police there on Hale's payroll. But maybe Amelia will understand one day. Maybe she'll forgive me for giving her the name of the man who took everything from us. Static filled the room. Amelia's throat tightened. She wasn't talking about you, she said quietly. She said the man who took everything from us. She meant Hale. Nathan leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I thought she meant me. Maybe you both did. Outside, a siren wailed faintly, then faded into the hum of the city. Amelia closed the laptop and turned to him. Why didn't you tell the truth, Nathan? You had years. I tried, he said. The board wouldn't let me. Coal Industries isn't a company anymore. It's a network. Government contracts, research patents, half the state's infrastructure. I signed away control long before I knew what it cost. Then why keep the name? He smiled bitterly. Because shame needs somewhere to live. She studied him, the man who'd once built bridges, now collapsing under the weight of his own. You could still go public, she said. If we release the files, They'll erase us before the truth gets out. Then what do you suggest? He hesitated. There's one more copy of the data, offline, in a private vault at corporate HQ. If we can get it, we can expose Hale's entire operation. Amelia frowned. You're already part of this, he said quietly. You found what they killed for. She turned away, staring at her fractured reflection in a cracked mirror. The glass split her image into two, one version afraid, one furious. You sound like my mother, she murmured. She thought she could fix everything too. She almost did, Nathan said. You're the one who can finish it. Amelia shook her head. You don't get to turn me into a symbol, Nathan. I'm not a replacement for her. He looked at her for a long moment. You're not. You're her proof. The silence stretched, thick, heavy, full of everything they couldn't say. Finally, she spoke. When the bridge collapsed. Where were you, really? Nathan's voice was a whisper. Underneath, trying to shut down the detonators. She turned. So you tried to stop it? He nodded once. I failed. I still see their faces when I close my eyes, including hers. Amelia stared at him, realization dawning slowly. You mean she was there? He said, voice breaking. Eleanor. She came to film proof. When the bridge fell, she was the one holding the camera. The world seemed to tilt. You let her die. I couldn't reach her, he whispered, and I've been trying to make it right ever since. Her vision blurred with tears, anger and grief tangling like wires. She was my mother, she said. She was your conscience. And she died because both of you thought silence could save something worth saving. Nathan didn't move. You're right. No, she said softly. I'm just tired. The rain picked up outside, pattering against the windows. Amelia wiped her face, closing the laptop. You said there's a vault. Where? Downtown, he said. Cole Tower, sub-level 2. Hale keeps the access code under his private login. We can't just walk in. She zipped the flash drive into her jacket. Then we don't walk, we break. He almost smiled. You really are your mother's daughter. I'll take that as a compliment. A sound outside broke the fragile calm. A car door slamming, then footsteps. Nathan's expression changed instantly. They found us. How? He grabbed the laptop, pulled the flash drive out, and shoved it into her hand. There's a back exit through the workshop. Go now. I'm not leaving you again. He stepped closer, his voice low, urgent. This time you don't have a choice. The door rattled under a heavy knock. Nathan's eyes met hers. Something final in them. Trust me one last time. Before she could answer, the door burst open. 3 men stormed in dark suits, silencers drawn. Nathan fired first, the crack echoing off the glass. 1 man dropped, the others ducked behind shelves. Go, he shouted. Amelia ran for the back, glass shattering around her as bullets tore through the mirrors. Each reflection broke into 1,000 screaming fragments of herself. She stumbled through the workshop, out into the alley, rain slicing across her face. Behind her, another gunshot louder, closer than silence. When she reached the street, she turned once. Through the rain-slicked window, she saw Nathan collapse against the wall. Blood spreading across his shirt. Their eyes met one last time, through cracked glass and flashing light. Then the reflection shattered. Cole Tower rose from the center of downtown like a monument to denial. 52 stories of mirrored glass, Nathan's greatest achievement, and his gravest sin. Amelia parked across the street, her hands tight on the steering wheel. The rain hadn't stopped since morning. Every drop seemed to echo in her chest like a ticking clock. The flash drive was still warm in her palm, its edges worn smooth from being held too long. She hadn't slept. Not since the gunfire in the workshop. Not since she saw him fall. She told herself Nathan was gone, but part of her still heard his voice in the storm. Trust me one last time. She slipped her hood up and crossed the street. Security had thinned since the board scandal 2 weeks ago. Hale was too busy controlling the fallout from missing funds and accidental leaks. The timing, in a sick way, was perfect. The lobby was all glass and marble, echoing with her footsteps. No one looked up as she entered, just another figure in a raincoat. Another late-night employee coming to clean up someone else's mess. Her badge, Nathan's old visitor ID, still scanned green. The elevator doors slid shut, sealing her inside a metal box of quiet and fear. She pressed B to dot the ride down, felt endless. She could hear her heartbeat in the hum of the cables. Each floor they passed seemed to whisper, turn back, but she didn't. When the doors opened, a gust of cold, sterile air hit her. Sublevel 2 was unlike the rest of the tower. Concrete, steel, and humming servers instead of polished walls. The floor was dimly lit, empty except for the soft whir of cooling fans. At the far end stood a glass enclosure marked authorized personnel only. Behind it, a biometric safe. The vault. She crossed the room, boots echoing softly. The retinal scanner blinked to life. Nathan's face flashed in her mind. His eyes, his voice. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded photo, an old corporate headshot of him from a news article. Holding her breath, she held it up to the scanner. The machine beeped twice, then clicked open. Her knees nearly gave out. "Thank you," she whispered to the air, though she wasn't sure if it was gratitude or grief. Inside, rows of data drives lined the shelves. She scanned the labels until one caught her eye. Project Recall 2009. EJ, her mother's initials. Her hand trembled as she slid the drive free. Dust fell away like ash. She plugged it into Nathan's laptop, the same one she'd taken from the workshop. A new folder appeared. Inside, video archives. Dozens of them. She clicked the most recent dot. The screen lit up with Eleanor's face. Older than Amelia, remembered lines deeper. Eyes tired, but steady. The date stamp read December 13th, 2009. Las 11:52 Paseo M. "If you're watching this," she said softly, "I probably didn't make it through tomorrow." Amelia's breath caught. "They'll call it an accident. They'll say the materials failed, or the foundation shifted. But it won't be nature that breaks the bridge. It'll be greed and fear. And the man who built it." The camera shook slightly. A pause. "Nathan Cole isn't who you think he is. He's trying to stop them, but he's not the one who started this." Eleanor looked off screen, as if at someone she loved and hated in equal measure. Tell her the truth when she's old enough. Tell Amelia that she deserved more than a secret for a father. The video ended in static. Amelia froze. She replayed it twice, 3 times, searching for clarity in the noise. But the words didn't change. More than a secret. She whispered. She opened another video, dated months earlier. Eleanor again this time, sitting at a desk in a cluttered apartment. He wanted to keep her safe. Said the world would use her name like a weapon. But you can't erase blood, no matter how high you build your towers. Her mother smiled faintly at the camera. Nathan will never forgive himself for walking away. But he's her father, and one day she'll see that love and guilt are sometimes the same thing. Amelia dropped the laptop onto the table, breath catching in her throat. "No," she whispered. "No, that can't be," but she knew. Deep down, she had always known. Every look, every pause. Every time Nathan tried to tell her something and didn't, he wasn't just protecting her. He was protecting himself. The elevator chimed behind her. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. She spun, heart pounding, as Hale stepped into view, tailored suit. Umbrella dripping rainwater onto the concrete floor. "Well," he said, smiling coldly, "the apple doesn't fall far from the scandal." Amelia's voice shook. "You knew." "Of course I knew. He told me himself. Back when he still thought loyalty could buy forgiveness." She backed away, one hand clutching the flash drive. "You killed my mother." He tilted his head. "She killed herself by digging too deep." Hale stepped closer. "Now hand me the drive." "No," he sighed. "You sound just like her too." She turned to run, but the alarm blared before she took 2 steps. The vault doors slammed shut, lights flashing red. Hale smiled. "He built this place for secrets. Fitting that you'll die in one." Before he could reach her, the overhead lights flickered, then cut out completely. A sound echoed from the corridor, heavy footsteps, then a voice. Low, rough, familiar. "Step away from her." Amelia's heart stopped. "Nathan." Hale turned, startled. "You were supposed to be Nathan's gunshot, drowned out the rest." Hale fell, the sound sharp and final. Nathan staggered into view, coat dark with rain or blood, his face pale but alive. "I told you not to come alone." Amelia stared at him, tears welling. "You're my later," he said softly. "First, we end this." They grabbed the drives, the laptop, and fled before security could reset the lockdown. The alarms howled behind them as they ran up the maintenance stairs. When they reached the surface, dawn was breaking, pale light cutting through rain clouds over the city. Amelia turned to him. "Is it true?" Nathan's face was unreadable. "Yes," her voice broke. "All this time, you let me think I wanted you free," he said. "Not defined by my mistakes. You don't get to decide that." He nodded. "You're right." The sun rose behind him, reflecting off the tower, 100 fractured pieces of glass, catching fire in the morning light. Morning came with sirens. News vans crowded the plaza below. Cole Tower. Reporters shouted questions into the mist, their voices bouncing off the mirrored facade that had once reflected nothing but pride. Coal Industries implicated in bridge scandal. New evidence suggests deliberate sabotage. CEO Nathan Cole under investigation. The words ran across every screen, every headline. And at the center of it all stood Amelia Jones, the daughter of Eleanor, the messenger of everything the city had chosen to forget. She hadn't wanted the spotlight. She just wanted the truth to exist somewhere beyond her grief. When she uploaded the files to 3 different outlets, she hadn't expected it to explode overnight. But the story was too big, too cruel to contain. By noon, the Department of Transportation had frozen Coal Industries' accounts. Hale's body had been recovered from the tower basement, and every shareholder was scrambling to distance themselves from his name. Nathan turned himself in an hour later. The courthouse steps were slick with rain when she found him. Police lights flashed against his face, painting it red and blue. He didn't resist as officers guided him toward the car. His wrists were cuffed, but his eyes were calm in a way she had never seen. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, stepping close. "Because it's the only thing left I can do right." "You don't have to. I do," he said softly. "You gave them the truth. Someone has to live with it." He hesitated, then added, "I'm proud of you, Amelia." She felt the tears burn behind her eyes. "Don't say that like goodbye." He smiled faintly. What else would it be? Then they took him away. That night, the city was quiet again. The rain had washed the headlines into the gutters. Amelia sat by her apartment window, watching the bay lights flicker across the water. Oliver slept in the next room, safe, blissfully unaware of the world collapsing outside. On her desk lay the last of the evidence drives, sealed in a plain envelope labeled simply EJ Final Copy. She hadn't opened it yet. Couldn't. Some truths didn't need another audience. Her phone buzzed. A restricted number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello." Nathan's voice came through, softer than she remembered. "You didn't think I'd get a phone call, did you?" She laughed despite herself. "You always find a way. I wanted to say thank you. For what? Destroying your company. For reminding me why I built it in the first place." She leaned against the glass. "You built it to prove something." "I built it to be seen," he said. "You turned it into something worth remembering." Silence filled the line, comfortable for the first time. "Do you ever think about what happens next?" she asked. "All the time," he said. "They'll make their case. I'll tell the truth. Maybe I'll even write it down. Do you regret it?" There was a pause. "Not anymore, do you?" She looked out at the city, broken, rebuilt, human. "No," she said quietly. "For the first time, I don't." When the call ended, she sat there a long while, listening to the hum of the city. Then she took out the envelope and opened it. Inside wasn't another file. It was a photograph, faded, edges curled. Her mother, younger, standing on the half-finished bridge, wind whipping her hair. Nathan beside her, hand resting protectively on her shoulder. On the back, a line in Eleanor's handwriting. "You can't rebuild what you refuse to face, but you can still love what's left." Weeks passed. The trial began. The world moved on, but slowly, with more caution, as if the city itself had learned to breathe differently. Coal Industries was dissolved. The bridge was renamed Eleanor Crossing. And Amelia, the woman who once delivered mail and carried ghosts, finally stopped running. She found work restoring community buildings along the coast, quietly rebuilding what greed had broken. Every time she held a hammer or brushed away dust from old stone, she thought of her mother's hands doing the same, and sometimes, when the fog rolled in just right, she could almost hear Nathan's voice through the wind, steady, tired, and full of something like peace. Months later, a letter arrived. The return address was a federal correctional facility. Her fingers trembled as she tore it open. "Amelia, they let me see the ocean today. It reminded me of that night on the bridge, the sound of the waves swallowing everything we didn't say. I don't know if forgiveness is something either of us knows how to give, but if I could build again, it wouldn't be towers. It would be roads back to the people I should never have left. I hope you and Oliver find those roads. Love always." Amelia folded the letter, pressed it to her chest. and looked out toward the bay. The sun was setting behind the rebuilt bridge, gold light shimmering on steel, soft as forgiveness. For the first time in years, she didn't see ghosts. She saw beginnings. 5 years later, the fog had changed. It didn't feel heavy anymore, just soft, like breath on glass. The city, too, had softened. New bridges gleamed in the distance, painted a pale bronze that caught the morning light like a promise. Amelia stood at the railing of Eleanor Crossing, her coat fluttering in the wind. Oliver leaned beside her, now tall enough to rest his chin on the bar, a sketchbook open in his hands. He was drawing the bridge. She smiled. "You got the angle right this time." "I'm not done," he said, tongue poking out in concentration. "I'm gonna draw the water too. It moves like it's alive." "It is," she said quietly. "It remembers everything." She looked down at the waves, the same ones that had swallowed her mother's last breath, that had carried Nathan's confession, that had watched her rebuild her life, one truth at a time. The wind carried the faintest scent of salt and steel, the sound of gulls, the hum of a city that had finally forgiven itself. Oliver flipped a page. "Mum, yeah. Did Grandpa build this bridge too?" Her chest tightened, but her voice stayed calm. "He helped fix it. Is he gonna come see it?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe, one day." A car horn sounded behind them. Mrs. Lee waving from the parking lot, a basket of pastries on her lap. She'd insisted on coming along, saying someone needed to keep the family legacy of stubbornness in check. Amelia waved back. Then her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number, but not unfamiliar. She opened the message. It wasn't text, just a picture. A sunrise over the ocean, taken from inside a high-walled yard. Attached below was a short note. "They let me see the water again. 5 more months. Tell him the bridge is beautiful." Amelia closed her eyes, the wind tangling her hair. For a moment, the years folded back fog, glass, gunfire, all of it fading until only his voice remained. "Tell her I wasn't brave enough to be her father." She exhaled slowly, as if releasing the last of that sentence into the air. "You were brave enough to try," she whispered. Oliver tugged her sleeve. "You okay?" "Yeah," she said, smiling. "I was just remembering someone. Grandpa." "Yeah, something like that." They walked the length of the bridge together. Plaques lined the sides, names of those lost in the 2009 collapse. Workers, engineers, her mother's name in the middle. Beneath it, a smaller inscription. Funded by the Eleanor Foundation for those who build what others destroy. Amelia stopped, fingers brushing the metal letters. "He did it," she murmured. Oliver glanced up. "Who?" She looked at the horizon, where the sky met the sea, where the new bridge gleamed. Someone who learned that building isn't just about steel. It's about keeping people standing. That afternoon, they drove north along the coast. The highway curved above cliffs, the ocean stretching endlessly beside them. Oliver hummed along to the radio, tapping his pencil against the window, already sketching ideas for something new. When they passed Mendocino, Amelia slowed the car. The old lighthouse still stood there, repaired, its light shining faintly again after years of darkness. She pulled over, rolled down the window, and let the sea air wash over her. It didn't smell like sorrow anymore, just salt and wind and the quiet pulse of something alive. She reached into her bag and pulled out one last envelope, yellowed, corners worn. Nathan's final letter, unopened until today. She broke the seal, Amelia. By the time you read this, I'll be free or close enough. I'm not sure what freedom means anymore, except maybe the sound of water that doesn't judge. If the world still remembers my name, I hope it's because you gave it back its meaning. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I left something for you, for him, in the Foundation's records. A trust for his schooling, for building, not tearing down. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you both keep building. Every bridge is a confession, Amelia. This one was mine. Nathan, she folded the letter slowly, eyes burning but her smile steady. Oliver looked up from his sketch pad. What's that? Just an old promise, she said. He leaned closer, squinting at the bridge outside the window. You think we'll build one someday? She started the engine. We already are. The road ahead bent toward sunlight. The ocean glittered beside them, endless and forgiving. Amelia rolled the window down, letting the wind fill the car, the sound of waves keeping rhythm with the beating of her heart. For the first time in her life, the water didn't echo loss. It sang of everything she'd managed to keep.